Most people think the night shift is just empty rooms and quiet hours. They're wrong. The night watches, listens. It waits for someone desperate enough to ignore the rules. Our first story takes us to a storage facility that hires fast, and one unit you never open. Unit 38. I should have known something was wrong when they hired me on the spot. My name's Alex Morrison, and 2 weeks ago, I became a security guard at Clearview Storage on the outskirts of Portland. I'm writing this from my car in a Walmart parking lot, because I can't go home. Because if I go home, it'll find me. And I need you to understand what's really in Unit 38 before it's too late. 3 months ago, I lost my job at the warehouse. Budget cuts, they said. 2 months ago, my wife left, taking our daughter with her. 1 month ago, I got evicted. I was living in my car, showering at the gym, spending my last dollars on gas station coffee, and trying to figure out how I'd fallen so far so fast. That's when I saw an ad on Craigslist. Security guard needed. Overnight shift. Immediate hire. $15 an hour. I called the number, and a man answered on the first ring. "Clearview Storage," he said. "You calling about the job?" Yes, sir. I got experience in warehouse security, and I'm available to start immediately. Can you work nights? 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Absolutely. When can you come in? Right now, if you need me. There was a pause. Then, "Come to the office. I'll have paperwork ready." No interview. No questions. No request for reference. No background check mentioned. I should have wondered why they were so desperate. Should have asked why the position was open. Should have noticed the relief in his voice when I said I'd come immediately. But I needed the money. Needed it badly enough to ignore every red flag. Clearview Storage was a sprawling facility on the edge of the industrial district. Rows and rows of identical orange units, surrounded by a chain-link fence, topped with barbed wire. The office was a small building near the entrance, with windows covered in security bars and a flickering neon sign. The man who hired me was named Vincent Hayes. He was in his 60s, with gray hair and deep circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept well in years. When he shook my hand, his grip was weak, almost desperate. "Thank you for coming," he said, sliding a clipboard across his desk. "Just need you to sign these forms." I skimmed them. Standard liability waivers, non-disclosure agreements, emergency contact info. But there was one form that made me pause. It was titled Facility Protocols and had a list of rules. Patrol the facility every 2 hours. Log all vehicle entries and exits. Monitor security cameras from main office. Don't enter any units without written authorization. Unit 38 is strictly off limits under all circumstances. Report any sounds or disturbances from Unit 38 immediately. If Unit 38's door is found open, don't approach. Call emergency number provided. Unit 38? I asked. Vincent's expression tightened. Long-term rental. Owner is particular about privacy. You don't need to go near it. You don't touch it. You don't even look at it too long. Understood? Sure. No problem. I'm serious, Alex. He leaned forward, and I saw something in his eyes. Fear. The last 3 guards we hired didn't follow that rule. They're not with us anymore. What happened to them? They quit. But the way he said it, the way his eyes darted away, told me he was lying. And I signed the forms anyway. I needed the fucking job. Vincent walked me around the facility before my first shift started. It was massive, maybe 300 units total, arranged in long rows with overhead lights that cast everything in harsh yellow. The place was quiet, almost too quiet. We stopped in front of Unit 38. It was in the back corner of the facility, isolated from the other units. The door was metal, reinforced, and covered in chains. Not padlocks, but actual chains, wrapped around the door multiple times and welded shut. The metal was old, rusted in places, and there were scratch marks around the edges. Deep gouges, like something had tried to claw its way out. "This is it," Vincent said quietly. "You stay away from this unit. You hear me? Something happens with it, call me immediately. You don't investigate. You don't try to help. You call me, and you wait in the office." "What's in there?" "That's not your concern. Just follow the damn rules." He gave me the keys to the office, the code for the gate, and a phone number written on a post-it note. "That's my cell. You call if anything happens with Unit 38. Anything." My first few nights were uneventful. I'd patrol the facility, check the cameras, log the occasional late-night customer coming to access their unit. The facility was mostly quiet after midnight, just the sound of wind moving through the rows and the distant hum of traffic from the highway. But I couldn't stop thinking about Unit 38. Every time I did my patrol, I'd find myself walking past it, looking at those chains, those scratch marks, wondering what could be inside that required that much security, wondering what had happened to the previous guards. On my fourth night, I heard it for the first time. It was around 2 a.m. I was in the office, watching the security cameras, when I heard a sound from outside, faint but distinct. Scratching, like nails on metal. I checked the cameras, cycling through each one until I found the source. Unit 38. On the grainy black and white feed, I could see the unit's door. And something was moving behind it. A shadow, shifting back and forth. And the scratching continued, rhythmic and persistent. I grabbed my flashlight and radio and went outside. My heart was pounding. I knew I wasn't supposed to approach the unit, but I needed to see if someone had broken in, if someone was trying to steal whatever the fuck was inside. As I got closer, the scratching got louder. Not just scratching anymore. I could hear breathing. Heavy, labored breathing. Like something struggling for air. I stood 20 feet away, flashlight trained on the door. The chains were still secure. The door was still sealed. The sound was coming from inside. Then I heard the voice. "Help me." It was barely a whisper, weak and desperate. "Please, help me." I took a step closer. "Hello? Is somebody there?" "Please." The voice was clearer now, a woman's voice, young, terrified. "I'm trapped. I've been here so long. Please, let me out." Every instinct told me to call Vincent, to follow the rules, but I could hear the desperation in that voice, the genuine fear. And I thought about what kind of person would chain someone inside a storage unit and leave them to die. "Hold on," I called out. "I'm gonna go get help." "No!" The voice became urgent, panicked. "No, don't leave me. Please, they'll know. They'll make sure you can't help me. You have to let me out now. Please." I stood there, torn. The chains were welded shut. I couldn't open the door if I wanted to. But that voice, the pleading. "I can't open it," I said. "The door's sealed. I need tools to cut the chains." The breathing behind the door became faster, almost excited. "The office! There's bolt cutters in the storage closet. I've seen them. Please, before they come back." "Who? Before who comes back?" "The ones who put me here. Please, you don't have much time." I ran back to the office, my mind racing. If someone was really trapped in there, I couldn't just leave them. But Vincent's warnings echoed in my head. The rules were clear. Don't approach Unit 38. Call immediately if there's a disturbance. I found the bolt cutters in the storage closet, heavy and industrial. As I picked them up, my phone rang. It was Vincent. "Alex? Alex, what's happening? The motion sensors around Unit 38 were triggered." There's someone inside, I said. I heard them. A woman. She's asking for help. Silence. Then, Alex, listen to me carefully. There's no woman in Unit 38. Whatever the fuck you heard, it ain't real. Don't open that door. Don't go near it. Come back to the office and wait for me. I'm on my way. But I heard her. It ain't real. His voice was sharp. Alex, I'm begging you, don't open that door. Don't listen to anything it says. Just wait for me. He hung up. I stood there holding the bolt cutters, trying to process what he just said. It's not real, but I heard her. Heard the fear in her voice, the desperation. I went back outside, back to Unit 38. The scratching had stopped. Everything was quiet. Hello? I called out. No response. Are you still there? Then, I heard it. Not the woman's voice anymore. Something else. A low, wet sound. Like something breathing through fluid. And underneath it, a voice. But it was wrong. Distorted. Using the woman's words, but with multiple tones layered over each other. Let us out. I dropped the bolt cutters. They clattered on the concrete, the sound echoing across the empty facility. The thing behind the door laughed. Not a human laugh. Something that approximated laughter. Like it had heard the sound before and was trying to mimic it. I backed away, my hands shaking. Vincent's truck pulled up a moment later, tires screeching. He jumped out and ran over to me. Did you open it? He demanded. Did you cut the chains? No, I didn't. But there's something in there. Something that's not human. He looked at the door, at the chains still secure, and some of the tension left his shoulders. Thank God. Come on, we need to talk. Back in the office, Vincent poured us both coffee with hands that trembled. He sat down heavily, looking older than he had when I first met him. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, he said. But I was afraid you wouldn't take the job, and I needed someone. Someone who would actually stay. What is it? What's in Unit 38? He took a long drink of coffee. 20 years ago, this facility had a different owner, a man named James Hendricks. He rented Unit 38 to a group. They said they were researchers. Paid cash, 5 years up front, with one condition. Absolute privacy. No one opens the unit, no one asks questions. What were they researching? I don't know. But one night, someone heard screaming coming from that unit. Multiple voices. And the police were called. When they opened it, he paused, his hands gripping the coffee cup so tight his knuckles went white. There were 7 bodies inside, but they weren't dead. They were merged together, fused, skin and bone and muscle all twisted into this fucking thing. This amalgamation that shouldn't be able to exist, but it did. And it was still alive, still conscious. All 7 people, trapped in one body, screaming. I felt sick. What did they do? They tried to separate them, tried for weeks, but every time they cut into it, every time they tried to pull them apart, it would grow back together, and it would absorb everyone who touched it. 2 surgeons, 3 nurses, all of them became a part of it, so they sealed it back up, chained the door shut, and they've been feeding it ever since. Blood, tissue, anything organic, just enough to keep it alive, but contained. The government took over, classified it. The facility changed hands. My father bought this place 10 years ago, not knowing what was here. By the time he found out, it was too late. You maintain Unit 38, or they shut you down and take the property. Why don't they just kill it? They've tried. Fire doesn't work. Poison doesn't work. It adapts. It survives. And every time someone tries to destroy it, it gets stronger. It's been in there for 20 years, Alex. 20 years of absorbing people, learning from them, taking their memories and voices. That's what you heard tonight. It's using the voices of everyone it's ever consumed, trying to trick you into opening that door. I felt cold. What happens if someone does open it? The last guard who tried, we found him 3 days later. Or what was left of him. He'd been absorbed into the mass. We could still see his face, pressed against the flesh, screaming silently. They had to burn the entire unit to get him out. And the thing just grew back. We sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of gray. "You can quit," Vincent said finally. "I wouldn't blame you. Most people do after their first encounter with it." "What about you? Why don't you quit?" "Because if I do, this place shuts down. The thing gets moved. And I don't want it anywhere near populated areas. At least here, it's contained. At least here, I can watch it." I thought about my empty bank account, my car full of belongings, the daughter I was supposed to have visitation with next month, but couldn't because I had nowhere to bring her. "I'll stay," I said, "but I want hazard pay." Vincent actually smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Fair enough." That was 10 days ago. Since then, I've heard the thing in Unit 38 every night. It cycles through voices, trying different combinations, different tricks. Sometimes it's the woman. Sometimes it's a child crying. Sometimes it's someone I know, whose voice it couldn't have possibly learned. Last night, it used my daughter's voice. "Daddy?" she said through the door. "Daddy, why did you leave me? Don't you love me anymore?" I stood in the office, hands over my ears, trying to block it out. But I could still hear her. Still hear my 8-year-old daughter begging me to come get her, to help her, to save her. Vincent had to physically restrain me for going outside with the bolt cutters. "It ain't her," he kept saying. "It's that thing. It's trying to get inside your head." But how did it know? How did it know what my daughter sounded like? How did it know what would break me? The morning I found out, I was doing my final patrol before shift change when I noticed something near Unit 38. A small object, partially hidden in the shadows. I walked over, careful not to get too close to the door. It was a phone. My phone. The one I'd lost 3 days ago. I picked it up, and it was still on. Battery at 2%. In there, in my recent calls, was a number I didn't recognize. The call log showed it had been active for 6 hours, 2 nights ago. Someone, or something, had been listening to my voicemails. The ones from my ex-wife. The ones where I could hear my daughter in the background, calling for me. The thing in Unit 38 had my phone. It had access to everything on it. My contacts, my photos, my voice recordings. It knew everything about me. I drove straight here, to this Walmart parking lot. I've been sitting here for 3 hours, trying to decide what the fuck to do. Vincent called me twice. I didn't answer, because I realized something's wrong. Vincent said that thing's been absorbing people for 20 years, that it has the memories and voices of everyone it's consumed. But he also said his father bought the facility 10 years ago, that Vincent's been here the whole time. So I looked up the previous owner, James Hendricks, the man who first rented Unit 38 to those researchers. He's been dead for 15 years, and in his obituary, there was a photo of his son, Vincent Hendricks Jr. The man who's been paying me, the man who's been protecting the facility, the man who knows everything about Unit 38. He's been dead for 15 years. So who hired me? Who's been showing up every time the sensors go off? Who's been making sure no one opens that door? I think I know the answer. And it's way worse than what I imagined. Unit 38 doesn't just contain the thing anymore. The thing is the facility. It's been absorbing people for so long that it's learned to mimic entire lives. It can create versions of the people it's consumed, send them out to the world, use them to protect itself, and lure in more victims. Vincent isn't real. He's just another extension of the thing, designed to make sure the door stays closed while it grows stronger, while it learns more, while it prepares for the day it doesn't need that unit anymore. And I think that day's coming soon. Because last night, when it was using my daughter's voice, I heard something else underneath. Something that sounded like hundreds of voices, maybe thousands, all speaking in unison. Soon, they said. Soon we'll have enough. Soon we won't need the chains anymore. Soon we'll be ready. I can't fucking go back to Clearview Storage. I can't face what Vincent really is. Can't risk being the next voice added to that chorus. But I can warn you. If you see a job posting for security work at a storage facility, if they hire you on the spot with no questions asked, if they tell you there's one unit you can never, ever approach, don't take that job. Because whatever's inside that unit, whatever it's becoming, it's not content to stay locked up forever. It's patient. It's learning. And it's getting ready to open its own door. I'm leaving Portland tonight, driving as far as I can on the gas that I have. Maybe I'll be far away enough when it finally breaks free. Maybe I'll be lucky. But I don't think anyone will be lucky when Unit 38 finally opens. And it will open. You'd think the worst horror is something trying to get out. Sometimes it's what's already in charge. Next, a morgue where the night doctor decides who dies. I used to think the dead were peaceful. That once someone passed, they were simply gone. Their body just an empty vessel waiting for burial or cremation. I don't think that anymore. My name's Justin. 5 days ago, I started working as a night attendant at County Memorial Hospital's morgue. 4 days ago, I discovered something the police still don't believe. Something that cost 3 people their lives, while I stood there and did nothing. I'm a medical student. Or, I was. 3rd year, drowning in debt, barely scraping by on ramen and hope. When I saw the posting for a morgue attendant position, night shift, $18 an hour, I applied immediately. The pay was decent, and more importantly, the overnight schedule meant I could attend classes during the day. The interview was brief. The hospital administrator, a tired woman named Mrs. Chen, asked me if I was comfortable working alone with deceased individuals. I said yes. She asked if I had any issues with the night shift. I said no. She hired me on the spot. "You'll be working under Dr. Raymond Corver," she said, sliding paperwork across her desk. "He's our pathologist. He'll train you on procedures. Just do what he says, follow protocol, and you'll be fine." Dr. Corver was waiting for me in the morgue on my first night. He was a tall man, maybe 50, with salt and pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He has the kind of face that might have been handsome once, but had been worn down by years of long hours and fluorescent lighting. "Justin," he said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm, his hands cold. "Welcome to the night shift. Let me show you around." The morgue was exactly what you'd expect. Sterile, white walls, stainless steel tables, the smell of formaldehyde and industrial cleaner, a wall of refrigerated drawers, each one numbered, a desk with a computer for logging intake and release. Everything was clean, everything organized, everything quiet. "Your primary responsibility is intake," Dr. Corver explained. "When a body arrives, you log it into the system, assign it a drawer, tag it, and notify me for examination. You'll also handle releases to funeral homes during your shift, though those are pretty rare at night. Mostly, you'll be doing paperwork and making sure everything is properly documented." "Sounds straightforward," I said. He smiled. "It is. The dead are easy to work with. They don't complain, they don't argue, and they're always patient." He walked over to the wall of drawers. "We have capacity for 48 bodies. Right now, we're at about 60%. The drawers are temperature controlled, and each one has a tag system. You scan the barcode when you put someone in, scan it when you take them out. Everything is tracked. And he spent the next 2 hours training me on the computer system, showing me how to log bodies, how to handle the tags, how to prepare bodies for examination. It was clinical, methodical, and honestly, easier than I expected. "You'll do fine," Dr. Corver said as he prepared to leave. "I'll be in my office upstairs if you need anything. I usually come down around 2 a.m. to do examinations on my new arrivals. Otherwise, just call if there's an issue." My first night was quiet. One intake, around 11 p.m. An elderly woman who died of natural causes at a nursing home. I logged her in, assigned her to drawer 23, tagged her, and sent Dr. Corver an email notification. He came down around midnight, did a preliminary examination, and left. The rest of the night, I sat at the desk, studying for my anatomy exam, occasionally checking the security camera that showed the empty hallways leading to the morgue. By 6 a.m., my replacement arrived. I felt like I gotten paid to study. Easy money. The second and third nights were similar. A few intakes, some paperwork, hours of quiet study time. Dr. Corver was always professional, always thorough in his examinations. I started to relax into the routine. Then came the fourth night. It started normally. I arrived at 10 p.m., did a walkthrough of the morgue, checked the log. We had 31 bodies currently in storage. Dr. Corver arrived shortly after, coffee in hand. "Quiet night so far?" he asked. "Yeah, nothing scheduled for intake." "Good. I've got some paperwork to catch up on. Call me if anything comes in." He disappeared upstairs to his office, and I settled in at the desk with my textbooks. The hours ticked by. 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m. At 1:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Intake notification. An ambulance was en route with a body. Male, mid-30s. Suspected overdose. ETA, 5 minutes. I texted Dr. Corver to let him know, then went to prepare the intake area. The loading bay door, the gurney, the paperwork, everything's ready. The ambulance arrived at 1:52 a.m. 2 paramedics wheeled in a body bag on a stretcher. They looked tired, eager to hand off their cargo and leave. "Suspected OD," one of them said, passing me the transfer paperwork. "Found him in a motel room. Been dead maybe 6 to 8 hours." I signed the forms, and they left quickly, the ambulance pulling away into the night. I wheeled the gurney into the morgue, began the intake process. The body bag was standard issue, black, heavy duty, zipper. I logged the arrival time, the preliminary cause of death, and then unzipped the bag to attach the identification tag. The man inside was young, maybe 35, like the report said. Brown hair, pale skin, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. His eyes were closed, face slack. He looked almost peaceful. I was reaching for the toe tag when I noticed something odd. His fingernails were dirty. Not just dirty, but caked with what looked like soil or clay. And there were scratches on his hands, fresh ones, like he'd been clawing something. I checked the paperwork again. Suspected overdose. Found in a motel room. So why did his hands look like he'd been digging? I took photos for the file, attached the toe tag, and assigned him to drawer 12. Then I sent Dr. Corver the notification and waited. He came down at 2:15 a.m., later than usual. When he entered the morgue, I noticed he looked different, more alert, almost energized. "New arrival?" he asked. "Yeah, drawer 12. Suspected overdose. But there are some inconsistencies. His hands... I'll take a look." He walked past me to drawer 12, pulled it open, and studied the body for a long moment. "Did the paramedics say anything else?" Just that he was found in a motel room, dead 6 to 8 hours." Dr. Corver nodded slowly, then closed the drawer. "I'll do a full examination later. Probably just some post-mortem changes. Bodies do strange things after death." He went back upstairs, and I returned to my desk. But something felt off. The way Dr. Corver had looked at the body. The way he dismissed my concerns so quickly. I pulled up the intake records on the computer, scrolling through the past few weeks of arrivals. Most were what you'd expect: elderly patients, accident victims, natural causes. But there were others. 4 in the past month. All male. All between 30 and 40. All listed as suspected overdoses or accidents. And all of them had been brought in during the night shift. During my predecessor's shift. I looked up at my predecessor's name in the system. Daniel Walsh. He worked here for 3 months before quitting suddenly 2 weeks ago. Right before I was hired. I tried to find him online. No social media. No contact info. Just a name in the employee directory that had been marked as terminated. I was about to close the browser when I noticed something else. Each of the 4 suspicious arrivals had been examined by Dr. Corver within an hour of intake, and each one had been released to the same funeral home, Riverside Cremation Services. I'd never heard of them, so I looked them up. The website was bare bones. No photos, no staff directory, just an address and a phone number. And the address was interesting. An industrial area on the outskirts of town. The kind of place with warehouses and storage facilities, not funeral homes. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Corver. "Can you come to my office? Need to discuss the new arrival." I felt a chill run through me. Something was off. Something was wrong. But I couldn't just leave. Couldn't just walk out without knowing what was happening. So, I climbed the stairs to the administration level, walked down the empty hallway, and knocked on Dr. Corver's office door. "Come in," his voice said. I opened the door. Dr. Corver was sitting at his desk, but he wasn't alone. There was another man in the room, younger, maybe 40, wearing a maintenance uniform. He was standing near the window, and when he turned to look at me, I saw his eyes were flat, empty. "Justin, this is Michael," Dr. Corver said. "He helps me with certain aspects of my work." "I don't understand," I said, my hand still on the doorknob. "Close the door, Justin." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I closed the door, stood there, waiting. Dr. Corver stood up, walked around his desk. "You've been doing excellent work. Very thorough. Very observant. That's why I need to explain something to you." "Explain what?" "The man who came in tonight, he's not a victim of an overdose. He's a victim of necessity." My blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" "The hospital's struggling, Justin. Underfunded, understaffed. The morgue alone loses money every year. But there's people out there, desperate people, who will pay significant amounts for certain services. Fresh organs, clean tissue, bodies that can be cremated without anyone asking questions." I stared at him. "You're killing people?" "I'm providing a service and creating opportunities for financial stability. Those 4 men from the last month, homeless, addicts, people no one was looking for, people who wouldn't be missed. That's murder." "That's pragmatism." He took a step toward me. "And now you're part of it. You've processed the body. You've logged it. Your signature is on the intake paperwork. If you go to the police, you'll be complicit." I didn't know." "But you do now. And now you have a choice. You can walk out of here, keep your mouth shut, collect your paychecks, and finish medical school. Or you can try to be a hero, and Michael here will make sure you become our next intake." The man by the window, Michael, reached into his jacket. I saw the glint of a knife. I looked at Dr. Corver, at his calm expression, at the absolute certainty in his eyes. He'd done this before. Probably threatened Daniel Walsh the same way. Probably threatened others. "I need to think about it," I said, my voice shaking. "Of course, take your time. But, Justin," he smiled, "don't take too long. And don't do anything stupid. We'll be watching." I walked out of his office on legs that barely worked, went back down to the morgue, sat at that desk, staring at the wall of drawers, knowing that behind door 12 was a man who'd been murdered. A man whose death I was now a part of. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and called 911. "I need to report a murder," I said when the operator answered. "County Memorial Hospital, the morgue. The night pathologist, Dr. Raymond Corver. He's killing people." The operator asked me to stay on the line, asked me to explain. I told her everything, my words tumbling out in a panicked rush. "Officers en route," she said. "Stay where you are. Don't confront anyone. Help is coming." I hung up and waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, watching the security camera showing the hallway. Watching for police. Watching for Michael with his knife. Then, I heard it. A sound from drawer 12. A thump. Like something moving inside. I stood up, walked slowly to the wall of drawers. The sound came again. Definitely from drawer 12. I reached out, my hand trembling, and pulled the handle. The drawer slid open. The body was sitting up, eyes wide open, staring at me, mouth open in a silent scream. And I could see now what I'd missed before. The needle mark in the man's neck, the bruising that suggested he'd been held down, the terror frozen on his face. The man hadn't died from an overdose. He died fighting. Behind me, the morgue door opened. I spun around. Dr. Corver stood there, with Michael beside him, and in Dr. Corver's hand was a syringe. "I told you not to do anything stupid," he said. I ran, didn't think, just moved, pushed past them, out in the hallway, toward the loading bay. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Michael, fast and heavy. I burst through the loading bay door into the parking lot, screaming for help. A security guard was doing his rounds, saw me, saw Michael chasing me. "Help!" I screamed. "He's trying to kill me!" The security guard pulled his radio, started calling for backup. Michael stopped, looked at the guard, then at me, and ran back inside. The police arrived 6 minutes later. I told them everything. They searched Dr. Corver's office, found records of the illegal sales, found evidence of the murders. They arrested him and Michael in the parking lot as they tried to leave. They found 4 more bodies. Men who'd been killed over the past 3 months. Men who'd been reported as overdoses or accidents. Men whose organs had been harvested and sold. Daniel Walsh, my predecessor. They found him in drawer 38. He'd been there for 2 weeks, labeled as a John Doe. Dr. Corver had killed him when he threatened to go to the police. The trial was 3 months ago. Dr. Corver and Michael were both convicted. Life sentences. No possibility of parole. I should feel relief. Should feel like justice was served. But I can't sleep anymore. Can't close my eyes without seeing drawer 12 opening. Without seeing that man sitting up, his dead eyes staring at me. His mouth open in that frozen scream. The doctors say it was just a post-mortem muscle contraction. That bodies can move after death due to gases building up. That what I saw wasn't real. But I know what I saw. I know that man sat up. I know he was trying to tell me something. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he was the only one. If the other bodies in those drawers, the ones I processed, the ones I tagged and logged and sent to be cremated, if they were still aware, still trapped, still screaming silently behind refrigerated steel. I dropped out of medical school. Couldn't continue after everything that happened. Now I work at a library, day shift, surrounded by living people. But I still have nightmares. Dreams where I'm back in that morgue, and all 48 drawers are opening at once, and the bodies inside are all sitting up, all staring at me, all asking the same question. Why didn't you save us sooner? I don't have an answer for them. I never will. Death is quiet. Medicine isn't. Our final story follows a night clinic where helping people means making sure they come back, no matter the cost. I used to believe that healthcare was about helping people. The nurses were supposed to heal, to comfort, to do no harm. I don't believe that anymore. I can't. Not after what I've become. My name is Sarah, and 3 weeks ago, I started a temporary assignment at Mercy Urgent Care on the south side of Chicago. 2 weeks ago, I discovered what they're really doing to their patients. 1 week ago, I became a part of it. I need to tell you this story, not because I think it'll change anything, not because I think anyone will believe me or stop them, but because you need to know. You need to understand what happens in places like this, to people like us, when no one's watching. I'm a traveling nurse, have been for 5 years. You go where the money is, where hospitals are desperate enough to pay premium rates for temporary staff. The pay's good, but the work's hard. You're always the outsider, always learning new systems, always alone. 3 weeks ago, my agency called with an assignment. 6-week contract to an urgent care facility in Chicago. Night shift, 3 nights a week. The pay was decent, not great, but I needed the work. My last assignment had ended badly. A personality conflict with the charge nurse that got me blacklisted from that hospital system. I couldn't afford to be picky. It's a community clinic, my recruiter said. Serves a low-income area. They need help covering their overnight shifts. Should be pretty straightforward. Mercy Urgent Care was in a converted warehouse in a neighborhood where half the storefronts were boarded up. The building was old brick, with barred windows and a flickering neon sign. Inside, it smelled like disinfectant and desperation. The facility director, a woman named Dr. Patricia Moss, interviewed me in a cramped office filled with filing cabinets and motivational posters. We serve the uninsured and underinsured, she explained. She was in her 50s, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that never quite met mine. People who can't afford traditional health care. We offer sliding scale fees, payment plans, whatever it takes to make sure people get treatment. That's admirable, I said. It's necessary. The people have nowhere else to go. She slid a contract across her desk. The night shift can be challenging. We see everything. Overdoses, stabbings, domestic violence. Sometimes people come in just for a warm place to sleep. You'll need to be compassionate, but firm. I signed the contract. Started the same night. The clinic had 12 exam rooms, a small procedure room, and a waiting area that was always full, even at 2 a.m. The staff was minimal. Me, one doctor on call, and a receptionist who worked behind bulletproof glass. My first night, I saw 23 patients. Flu symptoms, infected wounds, chest pain, anxiety attacks. Exactly what you'd expect from an urgent care serving a desperate population. The doctor on call was a man named Dr. Reese. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much too soon. You'll do fine, he told me as I prepped my 10th patient of the night. Just remember, these people need us. We're all they have. The second night was similar. Different patients, same problems. Poverty, addiction, untreated chronic conditions. I gave medications, cleaned wounds, held hands, and tried not to think about how broken this system was. But I started noticing patterns. They were regulars. People who came in every few days with vague complaints, headaches, back pain, insomnia, anxiety. And Dr. Reese always prescribed them something. Pain medication, sleep aids, anti-anxiety drugs. Always with a follow-up appointment in 3 to 5 days. Why are they coming back so frequently? I asked him on my third night, after seeing the same man for the 4th time that week. Chronic conditions, Dr. Reese said without looking up from his charting. These patients need ongoing management. We're establishing care relationships. But something felt off. The prescriptions were always short-term, just enough medication to last until the next visit. And the patients always came back, often in withdrawal, desperate for refills. On my fourth night, I saw a woman I recognized from my first shift, Maria. She was maybe 35, thin, with dark circles under her eyes, and track marks on her arm that suggested a history of IV drug use. "I need medication," she said as soon as I brought her to the exam room. "Dr. Reese gave me something last week for my anxiety, but I ran out." I checked her chart. Dr. Reese had prescribed her Ativan, a powerful benzodiazepine with no refills. "You went through a week's supply in 4 days?" I know, but I needed it. The anxiety was so bad." Her hands were shaking. She was sweating despite the cool air. Classic benzodiazepine withdrawal. "Please, I just need more, just to get me through." I told her I'd talk to the doctor. Found Dr. Reese in the break room. "Maria's back. She's in withdrawal. You prescribed her Ativan 4 days ago." He barely looked up from his phone. "Give her another prescription, same dosage, and schedule her for a follow-up in 5 days." "Dr. Reese, she's developing a dependency. We should be tapering her off, not—" "Sarah." He looked at me now, his expression flat. "These patients need management. Maria has severe anxiety. The medication helps her function. Would you rather she go back to using heroin?" "But we're creating a different addiction." "We're providing care. Write the script." I did what he asked. Watched Maria's relief as I handed her the prescription. Watched her promise she'd be careful this time. Knowing she'd be back in less than a week. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Maria, about all the patients I'd seen who kept coming back, who seemed to need the clinic more than the clinic needed them. It felt wrong. Predatory. On my 5th night, I decided to do some digging. Between patients, I pulled up records on the computer system, started looking at patterns. There were hundreds of patients who came in monthly, sometimes weekly, all of them prescribed controlled substances, pain medication, anxiety meds, sleep meds, always short-term prescriptions, always requiring frequent visits. And I noticed something else. The billing codes. Every visit was coded as a new patient or urgent care, which allowed for higher reimbursement from Medicaid and Medicare. But these weren't new patients. They were established patients being billed at a new patient rate. That's fraud. I was about to close the system when I saw a folder labeled Protocol Patients, password protected. I tried a few common phrases, but nothing worked. "What are you doing?" I jumped. Dr. Reese was standing behind me, coffee in hand, watching. "Just reviewing patient charts, making sure I'm documenting correctly." He looked at the screen, at the login prompt for the protected folder. "That's administrative, not your concern." "What's in there?" "Billing information, quality metrics, nothing clinical." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You should focus on patient care, Sarah. That's what you're here for." He walked away, and I felt a chill run through me. That folder was something he didn't want me to see. On the 6th night, I came in early. The receptionist wasn't at her station yet. The waiting room was empty. I could hear voices coming from the procedure room in the back. I moved quietly down the hallway, staying close to the wall. The procedure room door was cracked open. I could see inside. There was a patient on the exam table. A young man, maybe 20, unconscious. And Dr. Reese was injecting something into his IV line. Something from an unlabeled vial. "How long until he's dependent?" Dr. Moss asked. 3 weeks, maybe less. The compound's very effective." Dr. Reese disposed of the syringe. "He'll think it's his anxiety getting worse. We'll prescribe Xanax, and he'll be a regular." "And his insurance?" "Medicaid. Plus, he qualifies for our charity care program." which means we can build a state grant. He's worth about $8,000 a year if we manage him right. My stomach turned. They were deliberately creating addictions, injecting patients with substances that would make them dependent, then billing them for the treatment. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding, made it to the break room before they finished. When Dr. Reese emerged, I was sitting there, pretending to check my phone. "Oh, Sarah, you're here early." "Yeah, wanted to get a head start on charting." He studied me for a moment, and I forced myself to stay calm, to look normal. "Well, we got a full waiting room. Let's get started." That night I saw 12 patients, and I couldn't stop wondering which of them had been injected, which of them were protocol patients, which of them thought they had real medical conditions, when really, we'd created their suffering. I should have quit, should have called the police, the medical board, someone. But I had student loans. My rent was due. A bad reference from my last assignment that made me unemployable. And despite everything, despite the horror of what I'd seen, I needed this job. So, I came back for my 7th night. Dr. Moss was waiting for me when I arrived. "Sarah, can we talk in my office?" My blood went cold. She knew. Somehow, she knew I'd seen them. I followed her to the office, mind racing to excuses, explanations. But when she closed the door, her expression wasn't angry. It was almost sympathetic. "Dr. Reese told me you've been asking questions, looking at patient files." "I was just trying to understand the patient population." "Sarah, I'm going to be direct with you. You seem like a smart woman, smart enough to recognize what we're doing here." I said nothing. We serve a population that the healthcare system has abandoned. People with no insurance, no primary care, no support system. They come to us because they have nowhere else. And yes, we provide them with medications that may create dependency. But we also provide them with care, regular check-ins, medical supervision, a place to go when they're in crisis. You're creating addictions for profit. We're creating relationships for sustainability. The clinic would close without a steady patient base, and then where would these people go? The emergency room? The street? What you're doing is illegal. What we're doing is surviving. Every urgent care in this city's struggling. We found a way to stay open, to keep serving the community. She leaned forward. And now you're part of it. You've been writing prescriptions to protocol patients for a week. You've been complicit. I didn't know, but you do now. And you have a choice. You can walk away, try to report this, and find yourself unemployable. We have lawyers, Sarah. Good ones. They'll bury you in litigation, make sure you never work as a nurse again. Or you can stay, collect your paycheck, help us manage these patients, make sure they're safe. I thought about my loans, my rent, my car payment, the blacklist for my last job, the struggle to find work. "How do I know you won't get caught?" She smiled. "We've been doing this for 3 years. We're careful. We only target patients who won't complain. Homeless, uninsured, undocumented. People who are afraid of the authorities. People who need us." "What's in the injections?" "A proprietary compound, benzodiazepine analog mixed with mild stimulant. Creates anxiety, insomnia, and dependency within weeks. We treat the symptoms we create. It's elegant, really." I felt sick, but I also felt trapped. "If I stay, I just write prescriptions, nothing else?" "Just standard care. Vitals, documentation, prescription management. You don't have to be involved in protocol induction. That's medical staff only." I should have said no, should have walked out, should have gone to the police. But I thought about my bank account, about sleeping in my car if I got evicted, about never working as a nurse again. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll stay." Dr. Moss smiled. "Good. I knew you were smart." That was 1 week ago. Since then, I've worked 3 more shifts, seen dozens of patients, written countless prescriptions for people we've deliberately addicted, smiled and nodded, and pretended everything is normal. Last night, I saw Maria again. She was worse. Thinner, more desperate. Her hand shook so badly she could barely sign the paperwork. "Thank you," she said when I gave her the prescription. "I don't know what I'd do without this place. Without you." I smiled, told her it was no problem, told her to come back in 5 days. Because that's what I did now. That's what I've become. I'm not a healer anymore. I'm not helping people. I'm part of a machine that grinds up the desperate and forgotten, that turns their suffering into profit, that keeps them dependent and desperate, and coming back for more. I could still report them, could still try to stop this, but I won't, because I've learned something about myself over this past week. I'm not brave. I'm not moral. I'm just another person trying to survive, willing to compromise, willing to look away, willing to become complicit in something monstrous, because it's easier than fighting. And that's the worst part. Not what they're doing to the patients, but what I'm doing to myself. Every shift, I lose a little more of who I thought I was. Every prescription, I become a little more comfortable with the horror. Dr. Moss was right. We're keeping the clinic open. We're providing care of a sort, and these patients do keep coming back. They need us. Or rather, we made sure they needed us. Last night, Dr. Reese asked if I wanted to learn the protocol induction procedure. Said it would mean more money, more responsibility. I said I'd think about it. And the terrifying thing is, I am thinking about it. Seriously considering it. Because the money would help. Because I'm already complicit. Because what's one more step down this path? That's what I'm trying to tell you. This isn't a story about a nurse who discovered something evil and stopped it. This is a story about how easy it is to become evil yourself. How quickly you can compromise everything you thought you believed when survival's on the line. Mercy Urgent Care is still open, still seeing patients, still running the protocol. And I'm still here, 3 nights a week, writing prescriptions and watching people's lives spiral into dependency that we created. If you're reading this, if you're poor and desperate and considering going to a cheap urgent care facility, be careful. Check your medications. Question your prescriptions. Because not every clinic is trying to help you. Some of them are just trying to keep you coming back. And the worst part? I'll be there when you do. Smiling. Caring. Pretending I'm helping. Because that's what I am now. That's what I've chosen to become. Not a nurse. Not a healer. Just another predator in scrubs, feeding on people who have nowhere else to go. I tell myself I'll quit after the assignment, that I'll report them once I'm safe, once I have another job lined up. But I know the truth. I won't. Because I've already become the thing I was afraid of, and there's no coming back from that. The dead can rest. The guilty can be punished. But for people like me, the ones who choose comfort over courage, compliance over conscience, there's something worse than death. There's living with what you've become. And I'll be living with that the rest of my life. The night shift ends eventually, but some things follow you home. The doors lock, the lights come on, and the world pretends everything's normal. But now, you know better. These stories don't live in the dark. They survive because no one's watching. If you want more stories and exclusive episodes you won't hear anywhere else, support the show on Patreon. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us keep working the hours most people are afraid to face. Until next time, sleep when you can. This has been Skully's Sinister Stories.